Well, happy Tuesday. Hopefully, everyone's having a glorious Tuesday. It's a nice sunny day here in Austin, Texas. And I have to make a correction. I know it's kind of rare for me to do a correction, but I have to make a correction. I told a story last week about New York where veterans were being kicked out of hotels to make room for migrants. Now, I used the source of New York Post, if I'm not mistaken, but it turns out that was a lie from a person who were advocating for veterans. Longtime advocate lied about vets getting kicked out of New York hotels for migrants. So apparently, the New York Post and other news agencies, failed to do their due diligence, and it wasn't until certain questions were asked that the person wasn't able to, no pun intended, bring in the receipts, and the hotels weren't able to provide said receipts. So this was a lie, so I'm making a correction. But what's not a lie, that's been, I don't know if it's been properly vetted or not, but it's been vetted enough to where it's not a lie, and that's Chicago police stations are being overran by immigrants. Forced to confront the migrant crisis, daily Chicago police officers step up to help with no guidance from the city. Disruptions at stations have created a juggling of duties for officers, some who feel frustrated that there's still no word from the city about what they should do. No, the city has said what they're going to say on the issue. They're telling Governor Abbott, they're telling the border states, deal with the immigration and stop sending them to our cities, even though we're a sanctuary city. They're passing the blame to governors that are busing migrants to their cities without blaming Biden. Biden is the one that is to be blamed for the open border policy. He's the one that did not keep Remain in Mexico policy in place. So now Governor Abbott is doing what he can legally do. I don't know if he could declare an invasion and what that would look like. I don't know if they could push the migrants back in Mexico because that would be a legal battle in itself that Texas would lose. So he's doing the next best thing, which is to offload the migrants to sanctuary cities who have deemed themselves sanctuary cities. Chicago, as a city, scrambles to find housing for the recent influx of migrants. Police officers, along with the neighborhood volunteers, have ended up on the front line of the crisis as migrants sleep on the floors of police stations. Officers says they feel inclined to do what they can to help, but they have no resources or guidance from the city officials or the police department. Nearly 9,000 migrants have arrived in Chicago since August. Only 9,000? Only 9,000? That is a slow day in El Paso. And I'm being honest, that is a slow day of El Paso. I'm calling migrants, even though they're really illegal immigrants. The left wants to call them asylum seekers. But they're not all asylum seekers. They just want to be in America because America is great. Because America, you come from nothing, you come from rags to riches. That's the American dream. They believe in the American dream, and they believe that that could happen here at any cost. Nearly 900 migrants have arrived in Chicago since August, many fleeing economically and political devastated nations like Venezuela and Colombia. I mean, I thought socialism was great. Those two countries, well, I know Venezuela is a socialist country. Why isn't it great? Because it's socialist. I thought socialism brings the best of people. The South Side officer who requests to remain anonymous has gone out of her way to give families sleeping on the floor of her district basic supplies like baby formula, clothes for children, hygiene kits. She helped organize meal trains along the side of faith groups and volunteers and other officers have chipped in with money and donations for their families. I mean, this is really should be highlighted. I mean, I know this, I am presenting this as a negative, but this is a positive story and how officers are stepping up to help their community deal with the influx of immigration by helping migrants get the basic supplies so they can live somewhat dignified as they're sleeping on the floor of the police station. This right here is officers that we want. These are the thin blue lines that people support. These are the officers of the thin blue line that we support. This is a good officer. And these are the officers that are also helping the shipment, are the ones that we back. These are the ones that we want to promote because they're giving back to the community. Even though they're not Chicagoans, they're now Chicagoans because Governor Abbott has shipped these people to Chicago because we're being overwhelmed. I've spent well over $300, she said. Officers in various districts have also helped with laundry and medical transport. They added a mini food pantries to the district lobbies so families have easy access to supplies. A mobile shower unit with a shower up has come to stations so families can wash up. One officer gave a family an old DVD player to watch movies while they wait, he said. See, this is the thin blue line stepping up. This really is a good story disguised in a negative story. The negative story is Joe Biden refuses to do his job and make Mexico deal with this issue. Instead, police officers of Chicago are stepping up to the plate to make sure that these people are helped and have some level of dignity, some level of care, and have some level of hygiene and have some food in their belly. That is the positive spin of this story. Police officers call 311 every morning hoping to find shelter space, but the answer is always the same. Shelters are full and the wait list is long. On the north side, the officer said, I feel bad for them. There's not much we could do, she said. We're told nothing. We don't know when the next van will show up. You just can't turn a blind eye. While volunteer support has greatly helped the chaotic situation of having migrants sleep on the floor, use the district community room and facilities has put an added strain on police officers' job. The Southside officer said the station is a shelter in an emergency situation, but for maybe a day, but we are housing them for multiple days, she said. You have 30 people in the station and parents are asking questions. Kids are screaming and crying. There's only so many hours you can dedicate to do your job. Situation here is also a health and hygiene issue, as many stations have sent migrants to the hospital because of fevers, stomach pains, and rashes. Volunteers, police officers, and migrants told the Block Club. John Cantarzera, the president of Chicago Fraternity Order of the Police, told Sun Times the bed bugs have been a constant issue and lice problem was present at the near West District, as well as cases of chickenpox at the Shakespeare District, according to Catazera, who said improper use of police buildings and resources to house migrants. I guess that's Alderman Nick Spatato, the 38th, said that he's in contact with Jefferson Park Police about this station's migrant families, but said that their role has not taken care of the migrants and they should not be staying in the stations. Said their role is not to take care of migrants and they should not be staying in the stations. I agree. They should be staying in Mexico. That's just my personal opinion. I think Trump got it right to make Mexico deal with this issue. Some are helping others and bending over backwards for others. It's impossible to do their jobs. So, Spotato said, I think it's like potato, but Spotato, The extra work the officers come in as a department facing an officer shortage. According to the 2022 analyst, about 3,300 officers retired, resigned, or were fired or died since 2019. The city has struggled to replace them, hiring only about 1,600 officers since then. I mean, Austin's seeing the same issue with a officer shortage because no one wants to be an officer in Austin when you have a DA that's going to prosecute you and going to have a extreme. I mean, there's some officers getting in trouble because they slammed their finger in a door, and because their officer cam or their body cam catches them cursing when there's nobody around, they're on leave for the day because they were yelling obscenities. I mean, you don't want to work in that type of environment. However, it's also opened up to the conversation among officers on diverse political spectrum to find common ground and work together to try to solve the problem, she said. When someone is in need in front of us, you can't turn a blind eye. Look what's here. It's children, she said. Those are the ones that I don't know how to deal with that when you have children crossing the border. I mean, they're considered dreamers, but DACA that was set up by Obama, which couldn't have been ended under Trump, even though it was done by executive order. But at least with the certain Supreme Court ruling of Biden, whoever the next president is can overdo all executive orders. Officers have received no communications from the city or the police department on what to do except to be told not to transport migrants in department vehicles due to liability issues. But you could transport criminals that you arrest. That's not a liability issue. To the Southside officer, they have also been told to avoid giving migrants things like over-the-counter medicine since they could be responsible for any repercussions, she has said. There needs to be a person for every area and watch because there are tons of questions. The officer said there need to be a better supply of food without relying on districts to figure it out. We're flying by the seat of our pants, and it's been months now and months now. Oh, it's been months and months now. I don't think the city was prepared at all. Well, you know, it's one thing to say that you're a sanctuary city. It's another to put your money where your mouth is. Her station received food from the city officials only once, and it was expired, she said. Other officers and volunteers said that they were explicitly told not to help families, they said. When asked about the Chicago Police Department, spokesperson referred the questions to the mayor's office. Mary May with the City Office of Emergency Management and Communications said that she's working around the clock to respond to the growing number of new arrivals and are receiving on a daily basis. One of our top priorities is to decompress the police stations and provide safe spaces for asylum seekers, May said in a statement. The city is working with the community groups and officials to open temporary respite centers, and the new mayor, Brandon Johnson, is pushing for more federal support. Should ask El Paso how that federal support's helping them. They were promised money, but was never given to them. And that's for backing Biden's policy and to bash Governor Abbott. But apparently, if you're a Democrat, you could bust migrants all over the place. If you're the president, you could order people at the dead of night to fly migrants all over the place. But if you're a Republican governor trying to help border towns, you're a human trafficker. If you're a Republican governor paying for migrants in Texas to be shipped somewhere else, you're a human trafficker. I wonder if he's going to be able to make president, Governor Santos. I know he's running for president, but we'll see. So Paso also wants to see more federal funding that could expedite a shelter and work permit process so the migrants can enter the workplace and help struggling businesses. Background magic. When the migrant influx began this year, officers were the first to organize food distribution and call on the help of community and volunteers. And officers said many reached out to the mutual aid groups and organize meal trains, stayed late at work to feed arriving families, and gave migrants money to do laundry. Desiree Vasquez, a migrant from Venezuela who stayed in the 17th District Albany Park Police Station with her 2-year-old son, Luciano, for 8 days, told Book Club that she had a positive experience with the police officers who helped her despite the horrid living conditions she was thrust into at the station. See, this is what the police need to do. They need to get back to the community. It needs to be, of course, it has to be voluntarily. You can't force a police officer to be nice. I mean, you should, but this is the positive spin. This is the positive spin that police officers need. When they were called into question, they did the right thing. They provided a positive experience to migrants. That should be the headline story. It's too late for me to change the title. I should read these stories. But this is really a positive story in light of something negative. Police officers gave us an excellent attention. They were helpful because they spoke Spanish and helped with food, sweets, and checked on us, Velasquez said. She said that she received no city support, but thanks to the officers and community volunteers who went above and beyond to help her until she found temporary housing at Albany Park Church. See, when the city fails, the police stand up. They're the pillars of the community. This is what we want our police to do. Police at the 16th District have done a tremendous job in helping migrants. I have to shout out CAPS in general. They're doing some background magic, said Katharina Koch, a volunteer at the Jefferson Park Station who helped organize meal trains and donations for families staying there. At 16, they have been helpful in answering questions. They sometimes take people to the laundromat and help with quarters. They're allowed a small table to have supplies. Beverly, the 19th Ward Mutual Aid, has organized a meal train with families staying at the 22nd District. Some officers have donated meals to kept volunteers informed of the needs, said Tim Nguyen, former alderman candidate and meal train organizer. Despite the chaotic situation, this has thrusted volunteers and officers to make up as they go. The collaboration between community groups and the police officers shown the human side of law enforcement, volunteers said. The humanity of the situation compels people to act. Some people do not take the time to get to know the migrants and in turn a blind eye, but there are police who have been very helpful. This is the opportunity to see the benevolence of other police officers. This is really a pro-police story. This is what we want our police to do. This is police officers that we want to back. Now, of course, Biden has forced them to show this humanitarian side, to show the human side of the police stepping up through his policy of not remaining in Mexico, which is really the issue that we're seeing. I mean, Trump had the right action to making Mexico deal with the issue when it should be a Mexican issue, because Mexico is a sovereign state. It's a prosperous state. It's either a prosperous state or it's a terrorist state, and we should do something about it if it's a terrorist state. With that being said, that is my video for today. It's good to see that the police are getting some positive news for once, showing the human side of the police work. With that being said, that is my video, and hopefully you have a wonderful day, morning, or evening.